That question isn't meant to unsettle you, but to invite reflection. Picture a man who has worked tirelessly for 30 years, climbing the ladder, collecting promotions, and finally arriving at a place where his bank account is full, his house impressive, his car shining in the driveway. And yet, when he lays his head on the pillow at night, his mind is restless. His heart beats not with contentment, but with anxiety. An anxiety about maintaining it all, about whether others are doing better, about whether the sacrifices he made were worth it. Now imagine another person. She earns modestly, but she lives with ease. She takes long walks in the morning, shares meals with friends, laughs freely, and feels light. Her home is not extravagant, her car not new, yet her heart is unburdened. She feels rich, not because of the digits in her account, but because her life feels full. This contrast reveals something uncomfortable. Money itself is not the true measure of life's worth. It is simply a tool, a servant at best. But too often, people unwittingly turn it into a master, allowing it to dictate choices, priorities, and even their sense of identity. That is why this journey matters. This audiobook is not about teaching you how to accumulate faster or spend smarter in a mechanical sense. It's about reshaping the very relationship you have with money. It is about shifting from being controlled by money to letting money serve you. Because at the end of the day, the purpose of money is not accumulation, but liberation. And before we walk deeper, let me pause here. If you're listening right now, I'd love to know, where are you joining us from? Are you driving home after work, sitting in your living room, or perhaps walking in a park? Drop a comment below with your city and the time you're listening. It's always amazing to see how far these conversations travel across the world. And if this message resonates, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new reflection from Audiobook Sanctuary. Now back to the story. Throughout history, humanity has wrestled with this paradox of wealth and happiness. Ancient philosophers warned that unchecked desire for riches can hollow the soul. In the 19th century, Henry David Thoreau retreated to Walden Pond because he felt society was suffocating under the weight of possessions. And in modern psychology, countless studies have shown that once basic needs are met, more money adds little to happiness. Yet still, the chase continues, because we equate more with better. Why does this happen? Because money is deceptive. It promises comfort, security, and admiration, and indeed, to some extent, it delivers. A warm home, good food, and stable income are real blessings. But beyond that threshold, money begins to whisper a different message. If you have just a little more, you'll finally be content. That whisper has no end. The finish line keeps moving, and what once felt like abundance soon feels inadequate. Think about lottery winners. Many of them, after the initial euphoria, fall into depression, strained relationships, or financial ruin. The sudden wealth, instead of solving problems, amplifies them. Because money does not change the core of who we are. It magnifies it. If we are restless, it makes us more restless. If we are insecure, it feeds the insecurity. If we are generous, it expands our generosity. This is why the true question isn't how much money you have, but how you use it. Does your money reflect your values? Does it expand your life or compress it into endless worry? Does it connect you with people and experiences or isolate you in the pursuit of more? I once read about a Japanese concept called ikigai, your reason for being. In Japan, where lifespans are among the longest in the world, money is rarely the center of ikigai. Instead, it is seen as a means to support one's purpose, whether that's gardening, art, family, or community. When money is aligned with purpose, it becomes light. When it is misaligned, it becomes heavy. So, as you listen, ask yourself, what role does money play in your story? Is it the main character, dictating every scene? Or is it a supportive figure, giving you the freedom to write a richer plot? Consider the parable of King Midas. He was granted the power to turn everything he touched into gold. At first, it seemed a dream come true, but soon he could not eat, could not embrace his loved ones, could not truly live. His gift was, in fact, a curse. The same is true for us if we allow money to become the end goal rather than the servant of life. And yet, we don't need to renounce money. This is not a call to poverty. Instead, it is a call to balance, to wisdom. The question is not whether you should have money, but whether money should have you. One of the great financial thinkers of our time, John Bogle, the founder of Vanguard, once said, "Enough is everything." He built a financial empire, but he lived modestly, drove an old car, and believed that chasing more without knowing what enough means leads to misery. His life is a reminder that peace with money comes not from its quantity, but from clarity about its role. If you've ever compared yourself to a neighbor who drives a nicer car, or a colleague who earns more, you know the sharp sting of envy. But pause and look deeper. Is their life truly happier? Or is it just shinier on the outside? Appearances deceive. Many who look prosperous outwardly are weighed down by debt, sleepless nights, and broken relationships. Meanwhile, some who appear simple radiate peace. This brings us to the heart of this first section. Understanding that money is neutral. It is neither good nor evil by itself. Its moral weight depends on how it is earned, how it is used, and how it is allowed to influence us. Like fire, it can warm a home or burn it down. The choice is ours. As we reflect, let us be honest. Has money become a source of freedom in your life, or a source of chains? Do you work because you want to, or because you must maintain a lifestyle that no longer brings joy? Do you spend with intention, or with compulsion? The good news is that change is possible. No matter how tangled your relationship with money feels, you can rewrite the script. You can choose to let money step back into its proper role, a servant, a tool, a means. You can begin to see it not as the destination, but as the vehicle. This audiobook will guide you through that journey. But before we step into the practical principles, it is important to acknowledge that this shift begins in the mind and heart. Because until you see money differently, you cannot use it differently. So let this be our foundation. Money is not life itself. It is not the source of happiness. It is simply a resource, a stream of energy flowing through your days. And like any stream, you can direct it toward comparison and emptiness, or toward freedom and joy. With this foundation laid, we are ready to explore the next stage. The deep, tangled relationship between money and happiness. Because if money alone cannot buy joy, why does it seem so tied to our well-being? What myths have we inherited, and what truths can set us free? Money and happiness. Two words so often joined together in conversations, advertisements, and even our own private thoughts. Yet, the relationship between them is far from simple. It is tangled, layered, and full of contradictions. On one hand, we know that a lack of money can cause stress, limit opportunities, and even harm our health. On the other hand, we see countless examples of wealthy individuals who live in emptiness, anxiety, or discontent. So how do these two forces truly interact? Let's begin with a story. In the mid-20th century, Researchers studied communities in Mexico where incomes were low by Western standards. Families often lived in modest homes, possessions were few, but strong bonds of family and community were abundant. When asked to rate their happiness, many residents reported a high sense of life satisfaction. At the same time, in wealthy neighborhoods in New York, families who had everything materially often reported higher stress, weaker family ties, and lower feelings of contentment. This stark contrast challenged the assumption that money automatically delivers happiness. Modern psychology has confirmed this over and over. Daniel Kahneman, a Nobel Prize-winning psychologist, studied the connection between income and happiness. His research revealed that up to a certain threshold, money significantly improves well-being, primarily because it reduces financial stress. Having enough to pay bills, buy food, and handle emergencies makes life far smoother. But once that threshold is reached, the curve flattens. Beyond covering essentials and providing some comfort, extra money contributes surprisingly little to overall happiness. The problem is that most people never recognize this plateau. They continue chasing, believing that more income, a bigger house, or the next luxury will finally unlock contentment. It's like climbing a mountain only to find that the summit keeps shifting upward. The real summit is not higher earnings, but deeper understanding of what actually matters. Cultural myths have much to do with this misunderstanding. From a young age, we are told, sometimes subtly, sometimes directly, that success is measured by wealth. Children are praised for dreaming of being rich. Television bombards us with glamorous lifestyles, and social media magnifies the illusion that everyone else is living better, shinier, and more expensively. These cultural messages create a false equation: money, happiness. But pause and think about your own life. Recall the happiest memories you carry. Perhaps it was a childhood holiday, a quiet evening with a loved one, laughter with friends, or a moment of personal triumph. Were these memories tied to the cost of the moment? Or were they tied to presence, connection, and meaning? If we are honest, most joy is rooted not in price tags, but in experience. Still, we cannot dismiss money's role entirely. Poverty is painful. Financial instability can erode relationships, cause constant anxiety, and restrict access to healthcare, education, and safety. In fact, studies show that prolonged financial stress can lead to depression, insomnia, and even physical illness. So yes, money matters, but its role is foundational, not ultimate. It lays the groundwork for peace, but it cannot build the entire house of happiness. Let's look at a historical example. During the Great Depression of the 1930s, millions of families lost jobs, homes, and savings. The despair was overwhelming, but researchers noted something interesting. People who leaned on community support, faith, and simple pleasures often reported more resilience than those who measured worth solely by lost possessions. This suggests that even in financial hardship, happiness could be sustained by non-material sources. Conversely, when people define identity only by money, any loss becomes a collapse of self. A more recent example comes from Silicon Valley. Many technology executives earn staggering salaries, yet rates of burnout, anxiety, and depression run high. Therapists in California report a steady stream of wealthy clients who confess they feel trapped in golden cages, surrounded by luxury, but starving for meaning. Their money shields them from discomfort, but it cannot shield them from emptiness. Why is this so? Because happiness is not merely the absence of pain, it is the presence of purpose. Money can prevent hunger, but it cannot create belonging. It can buy distraction, but not peace. It can purchase comfort, but not fulfillment. That distinction is at the core of the money-happiness paradox. Let us reflect on a parable told in many cultures: the fisherman and the businessman. A businessman on vacation saw a fisherman resting after catching enough fish for the day. The businessman asked, "Why don't you fish longer to catch more?" The fisherman replied, "What would I do with more?" The businessman said, "Sell them, earn more money, buy bigger boats, and eventually retire wealthy." The fisherman smiled and said, "And then I could rest, spend time with family, and enjoy life? That's exactly what I'm doing now." This parable illustrates how easily we complicate what could be simple. We believe happiness lies in a distant future purchased by wealth, while in truth it often lies in the present, nurtured by simplicity and contentment. Yet, this doesn't mean ambition is wrong or that wealth is inherently bad. It means we must clarify the purpose of money. Instead of asking, "How much do I need to be happy?" we should ask, "How can I use what I have to live well?" The relationship between money and happiness can be thought of as a garden. Money is like water. Too little, and plants wither. Enough, and they flourish. But drowning them with excess water doesn't produce more fruit. It drowns the roots. Similarly, too much focus on wealth can suffocate the very sources of joy: relationships, creativity, and presence. One of the most liberating shifts we can make is to redefine success. Instead of chasing the highest salary or the largest home, we can measure success by alignment, by how well our use of money matches our deepest values. When your spending reflects your priorities, health, family, growth, service, happiness naturally follows. When it reflects comparison, status, or fear, happiness slips further away. Let me share a modern testimony. A woman in her late 40s once told me she spent years buying designer handbags, luxury vacations, and expensive jewelry, thinking these were the hallmarks of a good life. Yet, she felt emptier with each purchase. Finally, after a serious health scare, she redirected her money toward fitness, nutrition, and travel experiences with her children. Today, she radiates vitality. The money didn't vanish, it was redirected, and that redirection transformed her happiness. This leads us to a powerful realization. Happiness is not found in how much money you have, but in how consciously you direct it. When aligned with purpose, money amplifies joy. When disconnected, it drains life. As we prepare to move forward, let's carry this truth with us. Money and happiness are intertwined, but not in the way we are often told. Money can remove obstacles, it can ease burdens, it can provide opportunities, but it cannot create meaning. Meaning is something we must choose, build, and protect. Now that we've untangled the myths and clarified the reality, we can step into the practical principles of creating financial happiness. And the first of these principles is perhaps the simplest yet most powerful: spending money on experiences rather than possessions. Because while objects fade, experiences become part of who we are. Think back to the last time you bought something new. Maybe it was a shiny gadget, a piece of clothing, or even a car. Do you remember the initial thrill? The sense of pride when you first held it, wore it, or drove it? Now ask yourself, how long did that feeling last? A few days? A few weeks, perhaps? For most people, the joy fades quickly. Psychologists call this the hedonic treadmill, our tendency to adapt to new pleasures and soon return to our baseline level of happiness. Now, think of a different memory: a family vacation, a dinner with friends where laughter filled the air, or an afternoon spent learning something new that inspired you. Notice how those moments linger. Even years later, recalling them can spark warmth, connection, and sometimes even tears of joy. The difference is striking. Experiences root themselves in the fabric of who we are, while possessions often lose their shine and become ordinary. This is why one of the most reliable ways to turn money into happiness is to spend it on experiences rather than objects. The science behind this is compelling. Thomas Gilovich, a psychology professor at Cornell University, conducted decades of research showing that people consistently derive greater and longer-lasting happiness from experiential purchases than material ones. Experiences build identity, strengthen relationships, and create memories that endure. Take, for example, a couple who decides to buy the latest television. For the first month, they might be thrilled by the crisp image and advanced features. But soon, the TV becomes part of the background, just another object in the living room. Now imagine that same couple using the same amount of money to take a weekend trip to a new city. They explore new streets, taste new foods, share laughter, and later reminisce about that little cafe or the view from the hilltop. The TV provides entertainment, but the trip provides stories, shared meaning, and emotional richness. Experiences also tend to connect us with other people. When you buy a luxury handbag, you might enjoy it alone. But when you attend a concert, take a cooking class, or host a dinner, you weave your life together with others. Humans are wired for connection, and experiences naturally foster that bond. They become part of the shared narrative between friends, family, and even strangers. Consider historical examples as well. The ancient Romans were known for their public baths, amphitheaters, and festivals. These were collective experiences that bound citizens together, offering joy that far surpassed individual possessions. Today, we may not gather in amphitheaters in the same way, but the principle holds. Shared experiences amplify joy. Another remarkable aspect of experiences is how they resist comparison. Possessions invite competition. Who has the bigger house, the newer phone, the faster car? Experiences, however, are deeply personal. Your hike in the mountains is not better or worse than someone else's visit to the ocean. Each experience is unique and cannot easily be ranked. This reduces envy and fosters gratitude. Of course, there is a balance to be struck. Not every experience must be expensive or grand. Some of the richest moments are simple. A walk at sunrise, a picnic at the park, or an evening of storytelling with loved ones. The point is not how much the experience costs, but how deeply it resonates with your values and relationships. A luxury cruise may be forgotten, while a heartfelt afternoon with your children may glow in memory for decades. One powerful story comes from a man named John, who once believed possessions were the key to happiness. He spent years upgrading his car, his watch, his wardrobe. But after a painful divorce, he realized how little those objects comforted him. He began redirecting his money toward travel with his teenage daughter. Together, they visited national parks, took cooking classes, and even volunteered abroad. Years later, his daughter told him those experiences shaped her more than anything he ever bought her. The bond they built became their wealth. It's worth noting that experiences also grow in value over time. A new phone depreciates the moment you unbox it, but an experience can appreciate in memory. Even difficult experiences, like a challenging hike or a tough trip, often become treasured stories. We laugh about the rainstorm that drenched us, or the train we missed, or the unexpected kindness of strangers. These imperfections become part of the charm. Experiences also create anticipation, which in itself is a source of happiness. When you book a trip, your joy begins long before you step on the plane. The planning, the imagining, the countdown, all contribute to the pleasure. Possessions rarely offer this prolonged sense of delight. At this point, you might be wondering, should we never buy material things? Of course not. Possessions are part of life. The key is balance and intention. Buying a guitar, for instance, is technically purchasing a possession, but if it leads to years of music, learning, and joy with friends, it functions as an experience. The distinction lies not in the object itself, but in whether it generates moments, stories, and growth. As you reflect on your own spending, ask, how much of my money goes toward things I simply own, and how much goes toward things I truly live? Imagine redirecting even a small portion of your budget toward experiences. What memories could you create? What stories could you write into the fabric of your life? In Japan, there is a phrase, mono no aware, an awareness of the impermanence of things, and the beauty in that impermanence. Experiences embody this truth. They are fleeting, but their impact lasts forever. They remind us that life is not meant to be collected like trophies, but to be lived like a song. So, let this principle guide us. Possessions fill space, but experiences fill the soul. Every dollar spent on an experience is an investment in your identity, your relationships, and your joy. And now, with this truth in mind, we turn to another essential principle of happy finances: investing in what sustains life itself, your health and your wisdom. Because without well-being and growth, even the richest experiences can fade. It is in nurturing the body and mind that we unlock the next layer of lasting happiness. Imagine someone who spends thousands on luxury items but neglects regular checkups, eats poorly, and rarely rests. Their closet may shine, but their body quietly weakens. Or think of another person who spends modestly on clothes, yet invests in fresh food, exercise, and time for learning. Their health glows, their mind stays sharp, and their future feels promising. Which life seems truly rich? This brings us to the second principle of financial happiness: investing in health and wisdom. Money is not only for external comforts, it is a resource to build inner strength, resilience, and clarity. Health and knowledge are treasures that cannot be repossessed, stolen, or diminished with time. Instead, they multiply, creating ripples of well-being across decades. Throughout history, wise individuals have recognized this truth. The ancient Greeks believed in the unity of body and mind. Mens sana in corpore sano, a sound mind in a sound body, was not just a slogan, but a philosophy. Centuries later, Benjamin Franklin echoed it with his famous saying, "An investment in knowledge pays the best interest." Both health and wisdom were seen as the ultimate wealth. Let's begin with health. Medical research consistently shows that people who prioritize nutrition, exercise, and preventive care enjoy not just longer lives, but more vibrant ones. What good is wealth if illness steals your energy? Countless stories illustrate this. Consider Steve Jobs, whose life ended prematurely despite immense fortune. He once reflected, "I can hire people to drive me, make money for me, even build things for me, but I cannot hire someone to bear my sickness for me." His words remind us that health is the foundation upon which all other pursuits stand. Investing in health doesn't always mean extravagant spending. It can be as simple as buying fresh produce instead of processed snacks, setting aside money for a gym membership, or choosing vacations that involve movement and rest rather than excess and exhaustion. It might mean spending more for organic food or preventive medical tests. These choices, though sometimes less glamorous than buying gadgets, yield dividends of energy, clarity, and longevity. Now consider wisdom. Lifelong learning shapes not only our careers, but our happiness. Studies reveal that engaging the mind, through reading, taking classes, or practicing new skills, reduces the risk of cognitive decline and increases life satisfaction. Knowledge also gives us the tools to make better choices, both financially and personally. Take Warren Buffett, for example. He is one of the world's wealthiest men, but what he emphasizes most is his love of reading and learning. He spends hours daily with books and reports, claiming that knowledge compounds like money. His fortune may be vast, but his wisdom is the engine that sustains it. For ordinary people, continuous learning may not create billions, but it enriches life in equally profound ways, helping us navigate change, connect with others, and find meaning. There is also the emotional side of wisdom. Health feeds the body, but wisdom feeds the soul. When we invest in understanding, whether through spiritual study, history, philosophy, or even conversations with mentors, we build resilience against life's storms. We gain perspective, realizing that setbacks are temporary and that purpose matters more than possessions. One woman I knew redirected her spending after turning 50. Instead of chasing the latest fashion, she enrolled in cooking and art classes. The joy she found in learning new skills reinvigorated her sense of identity. Her children noticed her happiness, and her home filled with laughter as she shared her creations. The money she spent on classes may have been small compared to luxury shopping, but the return was immeasurable. Health and wisdom are also deeply connected. Good health sharpens the mind, and wisdom encourages better health choices. Together, they form a loop of reinforcement. The more you nurture your body, the clearer your mind becomes, and the wiser your decisions about health and life grow. This synergy is a form of wealth that compounds silently but powerfully. Let us also consider how health and wisdom protect against fear. Financial fear often stems from uncertainty. What if I get sick? What if I lose my job? By investing in health, you reduce some of that uncertainty. By investing in wisdom, you prepare to adapt when challenges arise. This doesn't guarantee immunity from hardship, but it builds confidence to face it. In many Eastern traditions, wealth is measured not in gold, but in vitality and insight. A person with clear eyes, steady breath, and calm wisdom is considered fortunate, regardless of possessions. In the West, we are slowly rediscovering this truth through movements emphasizing wellness, mindfulness, and lifelong learning. These are not luxuries. They are necessities for a truly happy financial life. If you are listening right now, think about your spending patterns. How much goes toward fleeting indulgences, and how much is invested in your long-term well-being? What would happen if you shifted just 10% of your budget toward better food, regular checkups, books, or courses? Over the span of years, the impact would be enormous, not just in how long you live, but in how deeply you live. As we reflect, let's remember, every dollar spent on health and wisdom is not an expense, but an investment. It creates resilience when markets crash, strength when stress rises, and meaning when possessions lose their shine. This brings us naturally to the next principle, one that transcends even self-care: the power of giving. Because money, when used not just for ourselves but for others, transforms into something larger than the sum of its parts. And it is there, in generosity, that happiness finds one of its purest forms. There is a certain paradox about giving. The more we release, the more full we feel. On paper, generosity looks like subtraction. You give away money, possessions, or time, and you are left with less. Yet in practice, it works in reverse. Every act of giving seems to expand the heart. deepen relationships, and generate a sense of abundance far greater than what was handed out. Philosophers and spiritual teachers across ages recognized this. Lao Tzu wrote, "The wise man does not lay up his own treasures. The more he gives to others, the more he has for himself." In Christianity, the Bible says, "It is more blessed to give than to receive." Modern psychology now affirms the same truth. Generosity is strongly linked with increased happiness, reduced stress, and even improved health. Think of the last time you gave without expecting anything in return. Perhaps you bought lunch for a friend, donated to a cause, or offered help to a stranger. Remember the quiet satisfaction afterward, the warm sense that you had done something meaningful. That glow is not an illusion. It is a biological response. Studies show that giving triggers the release of endorphins, often called the helper's high. The brain itself rewards us for generosity. Consider the story of Andrew Carnegie, one of the wealthiest men of the late 19th century. Carnegie believed that the rich had a moral responsibility to use their wealth for the greater good. He funded thousands of libraries across the United States and beyond, giving millions access to knowledge. His fortune created not just material abundance, but a legacy of learning that still enriches communities today. His life illustrates how giving can turn money into meaning far beyond the giver's lifespan. But generosity doesn't require millions. In fact, its beauty lies in accessibility. A small gift, when given with sincerity, can ripple outward in profound ways. There's a story from the Great Depression. A struggling family invited a hungry traveler to their dinner table, even though they had little. That act of kindness left such an impression on the traveler that years later, when he became successful, he searched for and repaid the family with support that lifted them out of poverty. One seed of generosity grew into a harvest none could have predicted. Why does giving work this way? Because it shifts our focus outward. Much of the unhappiness tied to money comes from self-comparison and endless striving. Do I have enough? Am I doing as well as others? Giving interrupts this cycle. It reminds us that life is not a competition, but a shared journey. By helping others, we affirm our own capacity to create change, and this fills us with purpose. There is also a deep psychological alignment at play. Humans are wired for connection, and generosity reinforces bonds. When you give, you signal trust, care, and goodwill. These acts strengthen relationships, which are the very foundation of happiness. Research from Harvard's famous Study of Adult Development, one of the longest studies ever conducted on happiness, concluded that strong relationships, not wealth, predict a good life. And generosity is one of the surest ways to nurture those ties. Think of how parents feel when they provide for their children, or how friends grow closer when they support each other through hardship. Money spent on others, especially loved ones, creates joy far beyond the transaction. Even giving to strangers builds a sense of belonging to a larger human family. Of course, generosity does not mean reckless giving. It is not about ignoring your own needs or compromising stability. True generosity flows from a place of balance, where you recognize that your needs are met and you have enough to share. It's not the size of the gift, but the spirit behind it. Some of the happiest givers are those who integrate generosity into daily life, not just grand gestures. A teacher who buys supplies for her students, a retiree who volunteers at a food bank, a teenager who helps neighbors with groceries. These acts may seem small, but collectively, they weave a fabric of compassion that strengthens society. Let us also remember that giving is not only about money. Time, attention, and encouragement are often more valuable than dollars. Listening to someone who feels unseen, mentoring a younger colleague, or sharing wisdom with your community. All of these are forms of generosity that enrich both giver and receiver. One moving example comes from Mother Teresa, who had no personal wealth yet gave boundlessly through service. Her presence with the sick and dying in Calcutta became a symbol of compassion for the entire world. She once said, "It's not how much we give, but how much love we put into giving." Her life shows that generosity is not confined by the size of one's wallet, but expressed through the size of one's heart. Science also tells us that generosity builds resilience. People who give regularly tend to report lower levels of depression and anxiety. Why? Because giving connects us to something larger than ourselves. It creates meaning even in hardship. During disasters, communities that rally to support one another recover faster, not only materially, but emotionally. So, if we want money to serve life, one of the most powerful ways is to direct it outward. Use it not only to build your own comfort, but to lighten someone else's burden. Even small amounts, a meal, a book, a helping hand, become seeds of joy that grow in unexpected ways. As we hold this principle close, let us prepare to face the challenges that can undermine financial happiness. Because while generosity, health, and experiences enrich us, there are traps that quietly steal joy. Comparison, vanity, and the endless chase for trends. Understanding these pitfalls is essential if we want to protect the freedom and purpose that money can bring. It is one thing to know the principles of financial happiness, spending on experiences, investing in health and wisdom, and giving generously. It is another thing to protect those principles against the silent traps that pull us away. Money, after all, is not only a tool, it is also a mirror, reflecting our insecurities, desires, and vulnerabilities. And unless we are watchful, it can easily lead us into patterns that erode joy instead of sustaining it. The first of these traps is comparison. Nothing steals happiness faster than measuring our lives against others. Social media magnifies this like never before. A neighbor's vacation, a colleague's new car, or a friend's luxury dinner instantly becomes visible to thousands. Suddenly, what we once considered enough begins to feel inadequate. Studies show that people often feel less satisfied with their own income after learning how much others earn, even if their own needs are fully met. Comparison blinds us to gratitude. It whispers, "You are behind. You are missing out." But the truth is, there will always be someone with more, just as there will always be someone with less. Happiness cannot survive if it is chained to an endless race. The second trap is vanity, the desire to show off wealth rather than use it meaningfully. There is an old saying, "We buy things we don't need, with money we don't have, to impress people we don't even like." Modern consumer culture thrives on this. Advertisements encourage us to equate possessions with identity, urging us to display rather than to live. But vanity is a hollow master. A luxury car driven only to signal status brings shallow pleasure, while a modest car that takes you to experiences with loved ones creates stories that endure. Vanity shackles money to ego, not to joy. The third trap is the chase for trends. Fashion, technology, and lifestyle fads change rapidly. Each season brings a new must-have, promising relevance and satisfaction. Yet the more we chase, the less we rest. Possessions that once felt cutting edge soon become outdated, replaced by newer versions. This cycle drains money, and more importantly, drains peace. A life built on trends is a life perpetually chasing, never arriving. So how do we guard against these traps? By embracing balance. Balance means knowing when to save and when to spend, when to enjoy today, and when to prepare for tomorrow. Too much saving can create fear, hoarding resources without ever living. Too much spending can lead to instability and regret. The art lies in weaving the two together, using money responsibly while allowing room for joy. Think of balance like sailing a ship. Saving is the anchor. It gives stability. Spending with joy is the wind. It propels you forward. Without the anchor, you drift aimlessly. Without the wind, you stagnate. Together, they allow you to chart a meaningful course. A man named Richard once confessed that he had saved diligently his entire life, always preparing for retirement, always deferring joy. When retirement came, his health had declined. He regretted the vacations he never took, the adventures he postponed, the dinners he skipped with friends. His story is a caution. Life is not meant to be lived only in the future. On the other hand, countless stories of those who overspent and fell into debt remind us that living only for today can cripple tomorrow. Balance honors both. At its heart, balance comes from clarity, knowing your values and letting money serve them. If family time matters most, spend on creating those memories. If health matters, allocate funds there. If growth matters, invest in learning. And if generosity matters, set aside resources for it. When money flows toward your true priorities, balance emerges naturally. This leads us to the vision of happy money. Happy money is not measured by amount, but by purpose. It is money that feels light, aligned, and meaningful. When you use money to enrich your life and the lives of others, it carries no bitterness. It leaves no regret. Whether it is $1 spent on a simple meal shared with a friend or a larger investment in your health, happy money nourishes the soul as well as the body. Happy money is the opposite of anxious money. Anxious money comes from fear, comparison, and ego. It never feels enough, and it always demands more. Happy money comes from freedom, clarity, and love. It does not matter if the sum is large or small. The feeling is what defines it. As we arrive here, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, what portion of your money feels happy, and what portion feels anxious? Which expenses lift your spirit, and which leave you empty? What would it look like to shift even a small part of your financial flow toward happiness? The journey to financial happiness is not about perfection, nor about wealth alone. It is about realignment. It is about seeing money as a tool to live, rather than living as a tool for money. When we shift our mindset, we discover that abundance is not out there in the future. It is here, in the choices we make every day. And so, we reach the close of this audiobook. But before we end, let us gather the threads one last time, weaving them into a final reflection that lingers like the echo of a song. Money is a servant, not a master. It was never meant to hold the throne in our lives, but too often we hand it the crown. This audiobook has invited you to reclaim that crown, to remember that happiness, not wealth, is the true sovereign of a good life. We have seen how money alone cannot guarantee joy. It provides comfort, safety, and possibility. But the essence of happiness arises elsewhere, in experiences, in health, in wisdom, in generosity, and in balance. These are the places where money, used wisely, transforms into meaning. Think of your life as a garden. Money is the water. Poured recklessly, it floods and destroys. Held too tightly, it dries into thirst. But channeled carefully, it nourishes roots, brings flowers to bloom, and feeds both body and soul. The gardener's wisdom, not the volume of water, determines the harvest. Remember, possessions fade, but experiences stay. A car will rust, but the memory of driving with loved ones along a coastal road will live in your heart forever. Health is fragile, but every dollar spent nurturing it is a shield against regret. Wisdom cannot be repossessed, and every book, every class, every lesson compounds like interest, shaping the richness of your days. And generosity. Oh, the miracle of giving. In giving, money multiplies. In releasing, we are filled. Happiness expands not in accumulation, but in circulation. The open hand receives more than the clenched fist ever could. Balance is the thread that ties it all together. Without balance, money bends us toward fear or recklessness. With balance, it becomes a steady companion, walking beside us as we savor today and prepare for tomorrow. So ask yourself, how will you let your money serve life from this day forward? Will you let it create experiences, nurture your health, expand your wisdom, and extend kindness to others? Will you let it flow with balance, neither hoarded nor wasted? If you do, then you will know what it means to hold happy money. You will understand that wealth is not measured by bank accounts alone, but by peace of mind, depth of relationships, vitality of body, and freedom of spirit. A wallet can be full, yet a heart empty. A wallet can be modest, yet a heart overflowing. Choose the second, because when the heart is full, the wallet no longer defines the measure of your life. And so, let us end with this truth. When you master money, you master only numbers. But when you let money serve life, you master happiness itself.